Man, these last few years have been a roller coaster for gaming. After years of experimentation, technological evolution, and studios finding their footing, this was the year when everything finally started to feel normal again. Developers are taking more risks, refining their craft, and delivering experiences that truly stick. Today, we're going to talk about the 18 best games of 2025 that you should play as soon as possible.
Number 1, Hades 2. Kicking off the list with a game that delivered the goods and refined an already perfect formula, Hades 2. If you enjoyed the first one, this sequel is a mandatory purchase. The brilliance here is the narrative and the replayability. Supergiant Games delivered another masterclass in storytelling, making Melinoe, the princess of the underworld, a deeply compelling protagonist. That roguelite loop where every run reveals new bits of lore, new character dialogue, and new plot threads is absolutely addictive. I couldn't stop playing because I needed to know what happened next in the story, not just in the run. The gameplay is fluid and faster than the original. The new weapons and boons provided insane build variety. That feeling of hitting a massive synergy between a hex and a certain deity's power, just absolutely melting a boss, that's pure gaming euphoria. The art style and music are some of the best in the industry. It's gorgeous, dark, and the soundtrack is a character in itself. My only critique? It took up all my free time. But honestly, for delivering an infinitely replayable, narratively rich, and mechanically perfect action roguelite, Hades 2 is easily one of the best games of 2025. Go play it now.
2. The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered. Next up, let's talk about a classic brought gloriously back to life, The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered. This game is a reminder of pure, unadulterated fantasy role-playing. The value here is the nostalgia combined with modern immersion, exploring the world of Cyrodiil with its vibrant forests, imperial cities, and the terrifying Oblivion gates felt breathtaking on modern hardware. They nailed the graphical update while perfectly preserving the charm and unique atmosphere of the original. The gameplay is pure, deep RPG freedom. Like all Elder Scrolls games, you can become literally anything. A master thief, an archmage, or just some random guy who likes closing Oblivion gates. The quest lines, especially the Dark Brotherhood and the Thieves Guild, are legendary and held up perfectly in this new version. The story of the hero of Quatch and the battle against Mirunus Dogon is epic. The voice acting, while famously cheesy in the original, adds a unique charm that fans adore. My only minor critique is that the level scaling still felt a little weird in the late game, but that's part of the Oblivion charm, right? For delivering a massive, unforgettable fantasy RPG world that respects both its legacy and modern standards, this remaster is a must-play time sink.
Number 3, Silent Hill F. Let's switch gears dramatically and talk about the unique terror that is Silent Hill F. This game redefined atmospheric horror. The uniqueness that made this game one of 2025's best is the unsettling setting and atmospheric terror. Set in 1960s rural Japan, the game delivered horror that felt deeply rooted in local folklore and grotesque beauty. The visuals were stunning, but the constant sense of unease and the visceral, strange enemy design are what stuck with me. The gameplay is classic survival horror, tense, deliberate, and focused on inventory management and exploration. The combat was intentionally clunky and desperate, reinforcing that the protagonist, Hinaku Shizumi, is just trying to survive. The puzzles were brilliant and added a great cerebral challenge to the horror. The story is dark, disturbing, and deeply personal, dealing with themes of corruption and transformation. The sheer artistry that went into the monster design alone made this a standout experience. My only issue is that the slow pace sometimes frustrated me when I just wanted to figure out what was happening next. But for delivering a beautiful, unique, and genuinely terrifying horror experience that honors the legacy of the series while taking it somewhere new, Silent Hill F is essential.
4. Monster Hunter Wilds. Next up, let's talk about the game that redefined massive-scale action RPGs, Monster Hunter Wilds. This one gave us the true open-world Monster Hunter experience we always dreamed of. The value here is the seamless, dynamic open world and the hunting depth. Gone are the segmented zones. We got a massive, beautiful open world where the environment itself plays a crucial role. Seeing massive monsters like the new Elder Dragons move naturally through the dynamic ecosystems was incredible. The gameplay is the best in the franchise. The signature deep combat, where you meticulously learn monster patterns, set traps, and utilize your complex weapons, is refined to perfection. The new secret companion mount made traversal a blast, and the dynamic weather changes kept every single hunt fresh and unpredictable. The core loop, hunting, carving, and crafting better gear, is pure addiction. I spent weeks just trying to get that one rare drop to craft the perfect sword. My only concern, which is minor, is the learning curve. Monster Hunter always demands a lot from players, but the payoff is massive. For delivering a gigantic, visually stunning, and endlessly rewarding hunting experience that redefines the genre, Monster Hunter Wilds is a must-own game of 2025.
Number 5. Ninja Gaiden 4. Let's switch gears to pure, uncompromising action with Ninja Gaiden 4. Team Ninja delivered a game that demands mastery and rewards skill like no other. The value here is the fluid, lightning-fast combat and the difficulty. Ryu Hayabusa's return was spectacular. The gameplay loop is pure, high-stakes adrenaline. You're constantly dodging, counterattacking, and chaining brutal combos. Mastering the new weapon sets and the updated karma score system, which encourages stylistic kills, was intensely addictive. This game didn't pull any punches on the difficulty. It respects the legacy of Ninja Gaiden, throwing ridiculously challenging enemies and massive bosses at you. That feeling of finally perfecting a boss fight that took you 20 attempts, that's what you pay for. The protagonist, Ryu, is the ultimate action hero, silent, deadly, and ridiculously cool. The level design felt intricate, encouraging exploration for crucial upgrades. My only critique is that the sheer difficulty can be a barrier for new players, but for veteran action enthusiasts, this was heaven. For delivering the most refined, demanding, and satisfying action combat experience of the year, Ninja Gaiden 4 is an absolute masterpiece.
6. Dying Light: The Beast. Next, let's talk about the survival horror experience that blended parkour with pure monster action. Dying Light: The Beast. This sequel absolutely raised the stakes. The unique selling point here is the dual nature gameplay. You're playing as the protagonist, Kyle Crane, who is constantly struggling with and utilizing his beastly transformation. The core loop of first-person parkour and brutal combat remained incredible, but the added powers like super strength and enhanced speed made the action visceral. The open world of the Castor Woods was perfect because it felt like a truly untamed, infected wilderness. The day-night cycle was more terrifying than ever. Volatiles were everywhere, and knowing you could turn into something just as dangerous added an amazing layer of tension. Co-op with friends, tackling massive zombie hordes, and fighting other monstrous players was pure fun. The story took a darker, more personal turn as Crane dealt with his transformation and the consequences of his actions. My only frustration was sometimes losing control during the more savage beast moments, but that was probably intentional. For delivering a fluid, action-packed, and terrifying open-world survival game with a phenomenal twist on the formula, Dying Light: The Beast is essential.
7. Death Stranding 2 on the Beach. All right, prepare your mind for the most unique game on this list, Death Stranding 2 on the Beach. Hideo Kojima delivered another sprawling, philosophical epic that consumed my life. The value here is in the atmospheric immersion and unparalleled concept. This is the ultimate Strand game experience.
Playing as Sam Porter Bridges, the core traversal gameplay, battling the physics, the environment, and the terrifying BTs to connect the fractured world is deeply meditative and intensely rewarding. The world felt bigger, weirder, and more visually complex than the first. The infrastructure building with other players was still brilliant, giving you that shared sense of accomplishment. The new tools and the customizable mobile base expanded the ways you could approach the hostile terrain. The story is pure, complex, mind-bending cinema. The visuals were stunning, and the performance capture from the amazing cast anchored the narrative's bizarre twists. My only note is that this game is deliberate and slow-paced, which isn't for everyone. But for those who embrace the journey and the complex narrative, Death Stranding 2 offered an unforgettable, singular experience that easily earns its spot as one of the best of 2025.
8. Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. Next on the list, we have a game that proved that turn-based RPGs can still redefine visual excellence. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is a masterpiece of art direction and complex strategy. The unique value here is the stunning artistry and engaged combat. The entire world is rendered in a style inspired by 19th century French painting, making every scene look like high art. That visual uniqueness alone made the journey compelling. The gameplay is a phenomenal blend of turn-based strategy and real-time skill. While you plan your actions strategically, you have to use timed button presses for parries and blocks during the enemy's turn. That mechanic keeps the player constantly engaged and adds a layer of action to the strategy that is incredibly addictive. The story of the Expedition 33 team on a desperate final mission to save humanity from a deadly curse was emotionally charged and beautifully written. My only critique is that the combat system has a steep learning curve due to the complexity, but mastering it is incredibly rewarding. For delivering a visually unique, emotionally deep, and strategically complex RPG experience, Clair Obscur is an essential 2025 hit.
9. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake-Eater. Let's dive into pure, unadulterated espionage excellence with Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake-Eater. This game wasn't just a remake, it was a total preservation of a masterpiece, delivered with stunning modern polish. The value here is the survival and stealth masterclass. Playing as Naked Snake in the dense 1960s Soviet jungle was an intense experience. The core survival gameplay, hunting, managing camouflage, and treating your various wounds is incredibly deep and added so much tension to every mission. That intricate, demanding stealth system is why this game is timeless. The jungle open environment felt amazing. It's a massive sandbox where every tree, every creature, and every enemy patrol is a tactical variable. The CQC, close quarters combat, felt incredibly responsive, and pulling off a perfect silent infiltration was the ultimate spy fantasy. The story is iconic, a tragic, mind-bending tale of betrayal, patriotism, and the origins of Big Boss. The cutscenes were cinematic perfection. My only point of concern is that the controls, while modernized, still retained some of the original's complexity, which demands patience. But for delivering an essential piece of gaming history with such technical fidelity and profound narrative depth, MGS Delta is easily one of the best games of 2025.
10. Ghost of Yotei. Next up, we have a game that defined open-world beauty and cinematic style, Ghost of Yotei. Sucker Punch proved they are masters of atmospheric adventure. The open world of Hokkaido is why this game was a hit. It's built on unmatched visual immersion. The remote, snowy landscapes and traditional Japanese settings were breathtaking. The focus on the guiding wind and minimalist HUD made exploration feel organic and constantly cinematic. You were truly discovering the world, not just following an icon. The gameplay is fluid and deep. The samurai stances were refined, making the combat intense and satisfying. The standoffs were just as awesome as ever. The protagonist's journey, filled with personal choices and moral ambiguity, was compelling and felt uniquely tailored to the isolating setting. The game is a pure aesthetic masterpiece. Every screenshot could be a wallpaper. My only critique is that I wanted more of the main narrative, as it was such a great story. But for delivering a massive, visually stunning, and emotionally resonant open-world adventure that respects player immersion, Ghost of Yotei is a shining star of 2025.
11. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Let's jump into pure pulp adventure with Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Machine Games delivered a first-person adventure that captured the spirit of the classic movies perfectly. The unique value here is the cinematic action and global scope. The game sent us on a globe-trotting treasure hunt from the Himalayas to the ruins of Rome. The level design was fantastic, perfectly blending massive linear action sequences with challenging puzzle solving and exploration in huge hub areas. That sense of jumping into a massive, unpredictable adventure was the biggest draw. The gameplay was a blast. It blended solid first-person combat with the strategic use of the whip, which was amazing for traversal, combat, and puzzle solving. I spent hours just mastering the environmental tricks with the whip. Indiana Jones is, of course, the ultimate protagonist, witty, resourceful, and always ready for a fight. The story felt like a lost, high-quality indie film. My only minor complaint is that the first-person perspective took a minute to adjust to during certain melee fights, but for delivering a high-octane, puzzle-packed, and wonderfully cinematic action-adventure experience, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle was an absolute must-play.
12. Doom: The Dark Ages. And finally, for this segment, we have the pure, glorious adrenaline shot that is Doom: The Dark Ages. ID Software redefined brutal FPS action yet again. The value here is the relentless push-forward combat. This game delivered non-stop, intense arena fighting where you had to kill demons to survive. The shift to the Dark Ages setting was brilliant, giving the Doomslayer medieval armor, a massive combat shield, and a heavy-duty flail. It felt fresh while retaining the core Doom energy. The gameplay loop was perfect. You're constantly managing resources, executing brutal glory kills, and strategically using your new arsenal against hordes of incredible demons. Piloting the massive Utland mech and tearing through giant enemies was pure catharsis. The Doomslayer is the ultimate protagonist, a silent, unstoppable force of vengeance. The story is simple. Hell dies. My only concern is that this level of intensity can be exhausting, but in the best way possible. For delivering the most brutal, fastest, and most visually spectacular FPS experience of the year, Doom: The Dark Ages is an essential purchase that will melt your face off.
13. Battlefield 6. All right, let's talk about the game that owned the competitive multiplayer scene this year, Battlefield 6. DICE absolutely delivered a massive, chaotic, and technically stunning shooter. The value here is the sheer scale of warfare and environmental destruction. When you paid for Battlefield 6, you paid for those epic 128-player maps where jets were crashing into skyscrapers and tanks were blowing huge holes in buildings. That level of destruction and sandbox chaos made every single match feel unique and intense. The gameplay loop is all about teamwork, vehicle mastery, and objective focus. That feeling of rolling up in a squad, capturing a critical objective point, and watching a skyscraper collapse in the background, pure, unrivaled FPS spectacle. The classes felt meaningful, and the gunplay was tight and satisfying. The protagonist here is the player and their squad, and the camaraderie in those massive, chaotic battles is what made the multiplayer so addictive. My only critique is that the server issues were a bit rough during the first week, which is typical Battlefield. But for delivering the most ambitious, largest scale, and most visually stunning large-scale multiplayer FPS experience of 2025, Battlefield 6 is essential.
14. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Next up, let's talk about the game that respected player intelligence and delivered massive historical depth, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2.
This is a hardcore RPG experience that is worth every second. The unique value here is the uncompromising historical immersion and realism. Set in 15th century Bohemia, this game wasn't fantasy, it was meticulous history. The open world was massive, detailed, and felt genuinely lived in. You were forced to manage your reputation, deal with realistic survival needs, and learn complex skills. The gameplay loop is demanding, especially the combat system, which requires precision, timing, and knowledge of historical fencing. It's hard, but the moment you master a combo and beat a difficult opponent, the reward is unmatched. The deep crafting, alchemy, and dialogue systems offered endless role-playing possibilities. Henry of Skullets continued his journey as a relatable protagonist thrust into massive political conflicts. His character growth felt earned and authentic. My only frustration was the steep learning curve at the beginning, but that difficulty is part of the game's brilliance. For delivering an enormous, deep, and brilliantly realistic historical RPG that offers hundreds of hours of quality content, Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2 is a massive value bomb.
15. Assassin's Creed Shadows. Now, let's talk about a game that gave us the historical setting we've always wanted, Assassin's Creed Shadows. In my opinion, it's not the best game in the franchise, and it wasn't exactly what we were really expecting, but in terms of gameplay, I think it delivers a lot. The open world of feudal Japan was recreated with incredible fidelity. It's perfect because it was built around dual protagonists and verticality. You can play as Yasuke, the formidable samurai, for direct and brutal combat, or as Naoi, the stealthy shinobi, for a classic Assassin's Creed-style infiltration. This mechanic brought incredible variety to the world. The gameplay marked a strong return to form for the series. Playing as Naoi, the stealth mechanics were precise and lethal, encouraging a strategic approach. As Yasuke, the combat was heavy and satisfying. The world is massive, full of castles, dense forests, and hidden villages, making exploration constantly rewarding. Both protagonists are compelling, offering two completely different perspectives on the chaos of the era. My only complaint is that the map size sometimes felt too big, but there was always something interesting to discover. By finally delivering a beautifully realized feudal Japan, complete with fluid combat and true stealth options, Assassin's Creed Shadows earns its spot on this 2025 list.
16. Hollow Knight: Silksong. Next up, a game that delivered one of the most content-dense and beautifully crafted 2D worlds ever, Hollow Knight: Silksong. Team Cherry absolutely delivered on the hype. The unique value here is the sheer density and artistry of the Metroidvania world. The Kingdom of Farloom was a huge, interconnected, hand-drawn masterpiece, packed with secrets, hidden bosses, and intricate platforming challenges. The value is insane, offering hundreds of hours of exploration. The gameplay was faster and more fluid than the original. Playing as Hornet, the new movement mechanics in the deep, demanding combat system made every encounter tense and rewarding. That feeling of finally unlocking a new path after struggling with a difficult platforming sequence is pure joy. The atmosphere and music are hauntingly beautiful, giving the world a unique and dark fairy tale vibe. My only critique is that the boss fights are ridiculously hard, demanding extreme patience, but that challenge is what makes the win so satisfying. For delivering a generational masterpiece in the 2D action genre, Hollow Knight: Silksong is a must-play essential from 2025.
17. Split Fiction. Let's talk about a game that completely redefined how we think about narrative and gameplay, Split Fiction. This game was the biggest surprise innovation of the year. The value here is the mind-bending dual-world mechanic. You were playing two completely separate games, one a high-tech sci-fi shooter, the other a fantasy top-down RPG, and the actions you took in one world directly, immediately, and dramatically altered the geometry and events in the other.
That simultaneous, interwoven gameplay was genius. The gameplay loop was an endless puzzle. You were constantly having to strategize across two realities to solve obstacles in one. It demanded a level of focus and lateral thinking that few games ever ask for. The story was compelling, dealing with two protagonists whose realities were constantly colliding. It was a narrative masterpiece that used gameplay as a storytelling device. My only concern was the steep learning curve required to wrap your head around the dual world concept, but once it clicked, it was addictive. For delivering the most innovative and unique gameplay structure of 2025, Split Fiction is an absolute must-play.
18. S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, Heart of Chernobyl. And finally, to cap off this amazing list, we have the ultimate in atmospheric survival horror, S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, Heart of Chernobyl. This game delivered on its promise of an unforgiving, immersive world. The open world, the zone, is perfect because it's built on brutal, systemic hostility. This massive, non-linear exclusion zone is constantly throwing unpredictable, deadly anomalies, horrific mutants, and other dangerous stalkers at you. The atmosphere is thick with tension and constant dread. The gameplay is pure survival. You're managing radiation, hunger, sleep, and equipment degradation while fighting for every single resource. Every bullet and every artifact discovery feels like a massive victory. That high-risk, high-reward loop is intensely rewarding. The protagonist, Skiff, is your avatar in a complex, lore-rich world. The story is non-linear and reacts dramatically to your choices. My only warning is that this game is incredibly difficult and unyielding, which isn't for everyone. But for delivering the most atmospheric, deep, and genuinely survival-focused open-world FPS experience of 2025, S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 is a legendary game that demands to be played.
And that is the list, guys. 18 absolute masterpieces that defined 2025 as one of the best years in modern gaming history. Now, I want to hear from the community. Which game on this list owned the most of your free time? Did I miss a massive 2025 hit that deserved a spot? Let me know all your authentic opinions down in the comments below.